welcome to the Football 360 Show, the fastest hour football talk on the planet. Happy Tuesday to you, one and all. I am JP Rock. He is Matt Bierman. How you doing today, Matt?
Doing well.
Everybody watching us on X or YouTube, go ahead, like, follow, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. There's all our socials, JP Rock MO on X, JP Rock Scouts U on the gram. Matt is...
Elite Football on X and Elite Football Academy on Instagram.
Ask us some questions. Getting a lot of questions. I'm sure you probably are too. It's that time of year. A lot of people wanting to know about camps and showcases, and is that stuff good to go to for you? Because everybody's hitting every kid up. I mean, it is just some people, and I'm sure you probably get this. You'll be followed by somebody. You're like, well, who's this person?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see they're from some organization, and they're just trying to mine kids off of you.
They're farming kids that you follow or retweet or
correct
all that stuff.
Correct. Yeah. And some people they'll pop up and they'll be like, and it's just really weird. And so parents are inundated by invites on various things, and so it gets overwhelming. And I always try to tell, there's only actually really 4 across the state and region that I can, endorse, I would say. And that's Elite, which we had. There was the middle school, which was just phenomenal. The main combine that's been going on for 16 years, which was phenomenal. I mean, just amazing talent. It's crazy. When I look at it, I'm like, oh, wow.
There was some good. We're going to look back on that. That's a really talented group from the 8th graders on up.
Super talented. In fact, I keep going through it because that's, what I do. And I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, he was there, man.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a guy, but he wasn't even that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that was amazing. And then next up, we have the KC Varsity Combines, which is the spring, equivalent of the Elite Combine. Only at this point, you can have some college coaches there.
Yep, because now they'll have guys, the FCS schools and lower can be out.
Correct, which is awesome. And then the Big Daddy Lindenwood Camp, Mega Camp, which seems like it's going to be just a knockout again. And then, of course, William Jewell, which is a small mega camp. And that's really good for, and I always tell parents and kids, you should touch those 4, but you really don't want to just put all your eggs in. I'm going to, Purdue, I'm going to Iowa State, and, have a plan. Like I'm going to all, P4 schools.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
you need to
have a plan.
Diversify.
Have a plan. Have an understanding of kind of where you are and who you're receiving information from.
Right.
I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and the kid is going to be a rising senior, and the person's parent was talking about like all the camps that they're going to, and it's a risk because you have to think about like if you're going to go to all Power 4 camps, and you're not a Power 4 person, and they've already taken a lot of guys in their class. They're starting to get commitments. They've had they have 5-6 offers per position group.
Yeah.
You got to be realistic. Like you're going to have to go there and absolutely destroy it, right?
Yeah.
And then hope that you fit what they're looking for, because a lot of times people don't understand too. You might be a safety on your team, but you do not fit how they play their safety, or
Correct.
You don't fit the style of quarterback that they use, or you don't fit they like their tackles a little taller. They like their guards a little bit taller or a little bit shorter, whatever it might be. And you have to know that there's a fit. A lot of times it's not even a personal thing as much as it is a personal preference on the coach's side of things.
You can't just go by, I'm always been a fan. I love that school. I love the way they play. You're absolutely right. You got to see if you fit in there. And quite frankly, there's some Power 4 talent that just not going to get looked at by Power 4 schools. And that's just the fact of the matter. That's just the environment that we're in. The portal, I know, the Show Me Shootout we're going to talk about. It just happened. But a bunch of guys, again, parents, people asking me about their recruitment and stuff like that. And it's like, it's no reflection on you. They can go into a Power 4 school and get a 3rd string guy, pay him, and they're willing to pay him $500,000, right? To have him go over a kid who is 6'4", 220, 4'5", 40, because they feel that's a better value for their investment.
100%.
Which is crazy and not necessarily true. But that's just where we're at in the game.
Well, and so the issue becomes is that you're up against a level of competition that used to be barred from transferring, and now they can transfer, right? And so, that 3 years or 2 years of that grown man getting into that college weight room and lifting and becoming more mature and learning the game at a faster pace is now got the upper hand, right? And so you have to be willing to get that upper hand by going maybe to a level you did not want to go to. And then once you get the upper hand, you're going to do the same thing to the kids that are now freshmen when you were a senior in high school.
That is their strategy. They are really they are almost wanting some really good D1 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Talk about back to the elite combine. I mean, the top 3 2026 quarterbacks in the state were there.
Yes.
Right. None have a Power 4 offer.
Nope.
Okay. And they're all Power 4 talent. So the Power 4 school strategy is let them go to a MAC school or, whatever, and then we'll take them. Right. Then we're going to come after them once they prove their worth, which is insane because all these guys are dudes that, Mizzou, K-State, Iowa. I mean, everybody, Illinois, everybody would have wanted them coming out of high school.
And that's the tough part is that, because you kind of know that you're that guy.
Yeah.
And you feel it and you kind of like know, hey, I've been waiting my turn. This is now I put in the work when I was a kid and I've been training for this. The unfortunate truth is the game has just changed.
Yes.
And right. So I was looking here. We got I was looking at some of the recruiting trends that are going on. 45% of programs now prioritize transfer portal recruitment over high school prospects.
Mm-hmm. What would you say? Not to interrupt you, but what would you say the Power 4 schools of that is?
65.
At least.
Right.
65, 75?
Yeah. Increased competition for available scholarships at all levels now because of that. And then because what happens is there's guys at the college level that are getting displaced at like a Mizzou or an Illinois, and they're going back down the ladder. Increased, early exposure and stand-up performances are more critical than ever.
Yeah.
Right? Those are things that you have to be thinking about, like playing as a freshman, playing as a sophomore.
Yep.
I will say it's easier to play as a freshman and a sophomore as like when we were kids because the numbers of kids playing football still isn't at the levels it used to be at, right? Because when I was a freshman in high school, there was a freshman team, a sophomore team, a JV team, and a varsity team.
Yeah.
Fully stocked, right?
Yeah, sometimes 2 freshmen teams.
Right. And so, some of the private schools may get that, but that not even some of the really big ones around town sometimes don't even field full freshman teams. So to give you an idea, but playing as a varsity, as a freshman, you got to be physically mature or you're probably on a team that isn't as good as they should be, right? But, your goal should be to be on the field as a sophomore if you can from a recruiting perspective.
Right.
Gives you 3 years of film, but it gives you the critical 2 years of sophomore and junior film that are required to get recruited early.
Right. Oh, no. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mean, that should really be your goal. And I know we talk about it all the time, but you can't just wait around and see what happens. You can't just go into high school and be like, okay, well, I'm going to do this my freshman and sophomore year. And hopefully by my junior, senior year, I'll be a varsity starter. You can't do that.
Right.
Which is why you have to have a goal and set it. The earlier, the better. You have to start training earlier. You have to put in the work. You have to go to the combines, the events, the mega camp as soon as possible. Start getting out there because part of the problem with some of these quarterbacks that we're alluding to is they didn't establish themselves as, quote, a guy early enough. All the guys out there you see everybody running around throwing big dollars at, they somehow, some way, shape, or form establish themselves as a guy.
Early, like 8th, 9th, 10th grade.
Correct. So I always tell people, a lot of these freshmen getting offers, 8th graders, we're seeing some 7th graders getting offers. These guys get offers and it doesn't mean anything, right?
No.
And that it means nothing, but it's good for self-promotion.
Yes.
Take that, announce that. When that gets out there, then these other schools will come. And even if it doesn't mean anything, they'll offer you, right? Because it's not how you start the race, it's how you finish.
Yeah, and I think it's a twofold finish. It's how you finish your high school recruitment, and then actually what you do in college.
Right.
And there are like,
but you do want that early exposure.
oh,
from
100%.
the offers.
You would rather have that than not.
Oh, absolutely. Because I'll tell you right now, and you've said it a million times, if you think that offer means anything, try to commit.
Yeah.
Right. And odds are they're going to tell you, well, we just want you to
Yeah,
make,
we're not ready for that.
We're not ready for that. Or we want you to take your time and make sure. That's what a lot of kids get told. That just the schools that like shotgun spray offer kids.
There's 1 or 2 kids per class where Jackson Cantwell wants to commit. He could have committed.
That's true.
Real early.
Right.
And those were not phantom offers. Those were legitimate offers that he could have taken very quickly. Right. But even you look at a guy like Brady Cook, use him as a great example. You know, I think it's safe to talk about this now, but you know, when he tried to commit to Mizzou back in the day, you know, Derek Dooley didn't want to accept it, the position coach, and I was heavily involved with it. And so I got him on the phone, and Coach Barry Odom made it right, and he stood by their commitment, you know, their offer to him to make his commitment. And you know, let's look back on history now. You know, had that not happened, you know, things that, you know, Eli Drinkwitz was a coach at, I don't even know where he was at the time, Arkansas State, Appalachian State. He wasn't even, but he was only there a year or two. He might have been somewhere else even when all that was going on.
State,
right.
Probably.
So, you know, things that happened way back when that seem insignificant, right, to the program and all that. You know, Brady was wanting to commit, and you know, the guy didn't want to have the, you know, didn't want to take it. He was, because what, you know what that means?
He didn't have the stones or the character to take it.
Yeah, what he wanted, he probably wanted an upgrade. He wanted to find someone else. Well, little did he know he was out the door anyway soon. But Coach Odom, you know, stand-up guy, you know, made a phone call, said, hey, this is going on. He said, give me a few minutes, and then talked to Brady about 10 minutes later, and he was committed to the University of Missouri. And then, you know, they changed coaching staffs, you know, pretty quickly. And then Brady gets to commit. You know, again, he has to basically kind of like go through the process a little bit again. And, but you know, once you are committed to one of these major schools, it's pretty rare that they're going to, if they've accepted it, that's something they're going to back out, because I think there is fear of legal action, things like that.
Especially if you're a local guy. You know, you don't want to set that,
you can't do
that tone off in a bad way. And look at how that's worked out for Coach Drinkwitz.
Extremely well.
You know, I mean, what a gift to be able to have that. And you know, Barry Odom, he left them with a good base.
You better believe he did, because now that group is kind of like out the door, right. And so, which we can talk about. I saw, you know, a bunch of those guys this weekend, or this, you know, past Friday at the pro day,
right.
But really interesting to see, you know, the Drake Heismeyers, Mitch Walters, guys like that came in. And Brady Cook, obviously, Jack Meyer. There's just had a whole group of guys in around that time that were really from this area, that were good glue guys that really helped that program, you know, rise. And they stuck with Mizzou. But yeah, I think the whole recruiting thing, if you're not paying attention to it, I mean, you can't. The problem is you can't get too high or too low on it, because you're not in control. That's what it really sucks. And I know a lot of people, just really, it drives them crazy, because you see other kids getting offers or other kids getting ranked ahead of your son. And, you know, I mean, I've talked to you about it. Like you will see legitimately some of these sites, like there's quarterback specific ones, there's running back specific ones, there's regional scouting groups, there's national scouting groups. And you wonder, do they really watch the film? Because you'll see certain kids, like I'll turn on a film and go, whoa, that kid's good. And you're like, well, why is he ranked so low? And then, but really, what's the body of work is your film, right? Other than the political side of things. But then you'll see a kid, you're like, oh, okay, this kid's like the number 5 quarterback in the class of 2028. You turn it on, you're like, there's 5 clips. The other boy I just watched had a full season worth of throwing touchdowns and running the ball. This other kid is lobbing balls, and you're like, but he's tall. And it's like, well, wait a second. This, you know, most 8th grade boys are not done growing, right? They grow pretty much till the time they're 16 or thereabouts. So it makes you wonder, right? Because then that's the politics side of it. So it is, as a parent, it can be very frustrating. But yeah, I was talking to a guy yesterday, who I think would be a really great guest to have on. I think we're going to talk about having him on, but he was former NFL quarterback, played, coach college. He's done a bunch of just cool business stuff. But he was talking to me about we're just back and forth on text, and he was talking about like ratings.
Yeah.
And one of the things he was talking about was like how utterly silly it is, because, and I said, well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? A coach offers, like you just described it, a kid gets offered as an 8th or 9th or 10th grader.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, people watch the film, they're like, oh yeah, he's good enough. Okay, yeah. So someone took the onus and made that first offer.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's the gateway to other offers, because someone else already cleared the
threshold.
The threshold.
Yeah.
And then what happens is then it starts to then blossom.
Yeah.
And then more offers, because they start searching. And then what happens is the recruiting sites get involved. They're like, oh, well, SMU, LSU, and
I'll tell you 100% right now, their ratings primarily are who is offered and how many.
So then it is a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because the more pressure that's associated with the kid's name when he goes into school, because the rating system supposedly is a 5-star is a guy that can start as a true freshman and be a program, like a program changer, right? As a 4-star, as like a 3-year, whatever it is, and 3-star guys are program guys that are going to kind of develop
I think
over time.
Everybody's a 3-star and up now,
right? And so you look at that though, but the 4s and 5s, because they have so many offers when they come in, especially now, they're getting paid more money.
Yeah,
they're more visible. So there is an onus on the staff to see that person be successful.
Yeah.
Right. And you'll see on certain teams, you're like, well, okay. I mean, you look at Luther Burden and you look at Theo Weiss, not the same receiver.
Right. Both 5-star guys.
Right. But the luster was off of Theo Weiss.
Yeah.
There was no, like, he transferred. He did well, I think, at Oklahoma, but not great. Right.
Yep.
So the luster was off of him, but I would argue he probably produced as much this past season as Luther did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, now how does that get weighed in the eyes of scouts and people like that? I don't know. They're totally different receivers. One's an outside, one's more of I see moving a little bit more inside.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think, you can see people take a path simply because of some catching a runner in high school and somebody buying off on them, and then they don't even know why they've been bought off on. And then the kiss of death is if that kid thinks that they really did something and that they are special and that they don't need to work anymore, and then that's when it becomes a disaster. But if that kid keeps working, they're going to get more opportunities than other kids. And college football is about opportunities. It's about coaches wanting you to be successful. And as much as you say, I'm telling you, yeah, it is. I've witnessed it. You've witnessed it.
Hey, and so let's delve into that let's dip our toe in it. We don't want to go too full, but I mean, it's very political inside a college football program, and guys are politicking for their player, their guy that they like. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. In fact, I would say that your average college fan would probably really have a bad taste of college football if they knew how the sausage was made. And you and I, you get in there and you get to see how it's made, and you're like, man, that's messed up, right? And it's a shame, and that's why sometimes you'll see guys, you're a fan of recruiting, and they'll be like, oh, you're real excited about this recruit. This guy falls by the wayside or transfers out. Guess what? Things were probably not working from the inside. For him, things weren't going his way.
So something in the recruiting is when you're getting recruited, or you're a parent of a child who's getting recruited, think of it in these terms. So you have offensive and defensive staff, right? And then there's your specialist. But say you're living in, say you're in St. Louis and you're getting recruited by a West Coast school, Mountain West school.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that recruits St. Louis, Missouri is a defensive coach. He's a defensive back coach. So he's the guy who goes out and finds you, coach recommends you. He comes out, watch you, whatever. They watch your film. They like you. They offer you. You end up going to that school out in the West Coast. you're a quarterback, a receiver, a running back, you're offensive related. You are now tied to that guy, though. But the problem is he's in the other side of the fence. He's on the defensive side. So what he says does not carry the weight of an offensive coach, right? Because he's not in those meetings. Defensive guys meet together. There's staff meetings, but all offense and defense meet separately, right? They're separate units on the team, and they have separate, they have opposing, things that they need to get done that are going to work for the team. But one's planning the offense, one's planning the defense. Sometimes it takes somebody staying on the table for you, right? Just like it does to get the offer, but it also takes someone staying on the table for you to be given a shot. And to think that there's not politics within a staff. So you take that into consideration. If you're getting recruited by somebody that is not your position coach, or that guy, if you look at his resume and he's been at 4 different schools over the 4 past years, you got to be careful, because if that guy leaves, if he's on the staff, you at least got a lifeline. He probably can't help you a ton, but you got a lifeline. But if that guy leaves, you're in trouble.
Right. The best you can do is be like, hey, when the season's over, you can come with me.
Yeah. And that goes on a lot.
Right. And something else that you might want to pay attention to when you're on your visits, when you're getting recruited, is who does the head coach listen to? Who does the man who makes the final decision? Who has his ear, right? Again, politics. Who has his ear? Who's he going to listen to? Who's he going to side with? Because there's infighting about all kinds of stuff on staffs, and guys are trying to get ahead just like in any other business. And so everybody's trying to, get the top man's attention. And so all this stuff goes into it. I mean, it's people think, and it's kind of funny because people just think, oh, I love this school, I'm going to show up. Oh, campus is lovely. Yeah, they have my major. Man, there's a lot more that parents and players need to look into and look at, take a hard look at before they make their decision. So a lot goes into it.
So now you got to be considering, like, okay, and some of this isn't public knowledge, but it will soon be at the state schools. What are they paying the other guy?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
What positions have they recruited? How many guys are coming in my class? How many guys are above me? Who's my position coach? Who's my recruiting guy? All those things. Who really is? Who's been with? A good way to see kind of who those guys are. The main guys for the head coach.
Right.
Go look at their coaching bio and see how long they've coached together. Right. Did they used to coach together 10 years ago when they were young guys, and now they've reformed the band?
Oh yeah.
Or did they, they just get hired randomly from another school, or they hold over from the old staff?
Or they forced as a holdover from the old staff.
Right.
Because that happens sometimes. Some coaches come in there and they're told by the administration, hey, you got to keep this guy.
Right.
And that guy might wield some power with the administration. I mean, there's all
kinds
alumni
of alumni.
Oh, yeah. There's all that stuff. And you might want to pay attention to see who runs things, right? Because the head coaches do a lot of stuff, including, donors, dealing with donors, trying to get things built, trying to do the grants, and who's running stuff, right? Who's their number one guy, who's kind of running the day-to-day stuff? Because I know that it's fascinating to find out. Again, it's like how things actually do work. Finding out who's there, who actually turns off the lights, who makes sure everybody's where they're supposed to be, and things are running
the
smooth.
CEO is doing CEO activities.
Correct.
Right. Like that's what the head coach is.
Right. Again, it's a business. It's not like, it's a business. And so you really need to look at it that way.
Yes. And multi-million-dollar business.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so I just think as people go through the process, they need to open their eyes. Yes. As you scale down and go to the other schools, it's still the same structure.
Yep.
It's just not the same amount of money, right? But it's still the same thing, right? The way that people would be shocked if they saw some of the interactivity of like the head coach and the players. Like there's, on TV you get this view of this guy who's the grandpa of football or whatever that everybody loves. Right. He's on the sideline, and because the focus is on him.
Yeah.
The reality of it is, other than recruiting, a lot of times that's the only time you interact with the head coach.
He's the face of the program.
Literally, that's the only time. Like sometimes you got to wonder, does he even know your name?
Right.
I mean, I'll give you an interesting story. I'll leave names out of it. But I can tell you at a major state university within the last 20 years, starting quarterback. Okay, he's there. One of the bigger recruits ever to come through the state. They get him. Does right by the school, does what he's supposed to do when he's there. Has a family member comes and plays, a brother that comes plays after him, and things didn't go as well. And I can tell you part of the issue was there was an issue with some housing that should have been taken care of as an early enrollee, didn't get taken care of, just kind of oversight. And there was a comment by the head coach, didn't call the mother by her first name, last name. Oh, hey, mom. Didn't know her name, right? And brother A had been there for 4 years or whatever. Brother B had been around the whole time, heavily recruited. So you're in their house, you're talking to them, and it became very apparent that he did not even remember her name.
Yeah.
And that was a definitely, I remember hearing the story and being like, damn. And the mother and father were not, it's just kind of, I think it was a eye-opening experience for them as well, right?
I think I know who you're talking about. And if it's who I think it is, they had a lot of other stuff going on. That was distraction to them. And so not surprised that they would be that way. But I mean, not necessarily the most personable guy in the first place.
No. And but when you don't know the mom's name
that's pretty bad.
Of one of the guys, it's one of the biggest recruits you've ever had.
Oh yeah. No, it's
but again, he's a CEO. And the CEOs oftentimes don't know the family members' names of their employees, right? They should, but they don't.
Way more interested in trying to get the indoor facilities and the dome stadium built. You know what I mean? I mean, they're out there, glad handing with guys who were, class of 1930 and got a lot of money, and you're trying to, glad hand them and show them a good time and get that donation. So
And speaking of, like at Mizzou, I went down for the pro day. And they had, they're already doing construction on that stadium. I mean, the whole end zone, the northern side of the end zone with them is knocked down. It's dirt, and they're clawing stuff up, and you could tell it's
so
going
crazy. It's so crazy. Remember when you used to just be able to pull up in the parking lot behind the gymnastics center?
Oh yeah, that's not happening anymore.
No, that was so cool. You could just pull right up in there, boom.
Yeah,
you're in.
So Joe, I did send you an email a little bit ago, so we can pull that up whenever you get a shot. It's just a few clips, nothing crazy. Yeah. So kind of transition to the pro day, because it was it's always a fun event to go to. I think we can kind of give some insight to the people on what that process is, because all the boys that are going to play college football, in the back of their mind, they have this dream of playing in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Although, you can make as good of money now playing in college as some of the rookies are making in the NFL, right?
Oh, yeah.
Over a 4-year deal, depending on who you are. But what I think is interesting is the process of how they do it, right? You have the combine guys that do that, which that's a limited number that gets invited.
Mm-hmm.
All those guys will not get, even if they go to the combine, it doesn't mean they're going to get drafted. I mean, it happens all the time. Cody Schrader didn't get drafted. He went to the combine, had a good combine.
Yeah.
Had a really good pro day last year. So went down to see Brady's pro day. It was a really good day. I was in the indoor. And it's interesting just because it's kind of a different style event that you're used to being at, right? But they're all the same. Everyone I've been to is pretty much run the exact same way. So Mizzou does theirs first, and then they have the in-state guys from the other smaller schools come in after. So you have this scenario where they're warming up, kind of milling about. The college coaches are pretty much out of it, right? They're there.
Yeah.
They're watching. They're walking around. They're kind of, a couple guys, Coach Jared Russell's there. He's kind of making sure that things are going, and the strength coach is kind of involved, is making sure they have what they need.
Right.
And I think some of the, auxiliary staff is there to help usher balls off the field and make sure things are clean.
Depending upon how many scouts, how many people they're expecting, they set up some stands for them.
And what's nice now is because the upper level of the new indoor has like a catwalk around it, or not all the way around, but all the way down the side. you can walk up and down that. So everybody was pretty much on that looking down.
I'm always afraid somebody's going to fall off that thing.
Oh, it's high. And then there's a second level too. It's got more like lounge seating, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we got there. I took my son with me. He was on spring break, so we got to go. And we saw Brady, like as soon as we walked in, we hit the restroom. We were walking out. He was walking to go down. He was talking to his family. We small talked, and then he was just throwing. That's all he was doing. So everybody else is running their 40s and all that. He's done that. He doesn't need to do it. So then you go through. Everybody does their 40s. They do the pro agility, the broad jump, vertical leap, just like we do. They also do the bench press. Like one of those things where so they bring them in, they take them to the weight room, they do all that junk, just kind of get them hands, wingspan. 30 all 30 teams are there.
That's some sound from the event.
Yeah, that's the sound. You're going to hear it. So, but they do all that stuff first and foremost, and then once they get them done, then they come over, they run their 40, get 2 attempts, and then from there, it's really a simple procedure, right? Because then they break the linemen out. They do their thing, then the running backs go do their thing, then the receivers and quarterbacks, and everybody does their thing, if you will. So yeah, if Joe's going to pull it up,
it's right there.
It's a beautiful facility. I should have shot this sideways, so it would have been nice. But
it's nice how they've improved the lighting over the years.
Oh, for those that don't know, the other one was like a dungeon.
Yes. Yeah,
and this thing's got lighting. I mean, it's got the doors, it's got the fans spinning up there. The sound system's amazing.
Yeah. It was before it was just basically an enclosure.
Yeah. So you can kind of see, I don't even know what this shot is, but the guys are, they're throwing and they're doing their thing. But Brady did a really hit it up. Let's see what this one is. It says Brady just going through throwing, but Luther did not run run routes.
No point.
So he had the NFL Network following him around the whole time. So he had a bunch of guys following him, the whole time. But Brady threw really well. I think threw 60 balls, four were dropped, all on the money.
So outside of Luther being the name guy, what's the point of following him around?
NFL Network's doing a special on him or something.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean they have the guy with the camera, walking, the full rig on, like walking around following him. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. But yeah, then you see a lot of people there, but all 32 teams were there. Brady threw extremely well, but he didn't. He didn't. The situation wasn't too big for him.
So who was he throwing to?
He had Theo Weiss, Mookie Cooper, a guy that we had worked with. Who else? Blood, who was the backup quarterback. He was in there. I think Kevin Coleman was supposed to do it, and then he pulled up the day before something happened, so he couldn't do it. Got dinged up. So I don't know. But it was, I think, one of the guys. The thing with Luther was he was gonna throw, or was gonna do the throwing and route running, and then like the couple days before decided or whatever it was he couldn't because of whatever reason. I think he dinged up his hamstring or something. So he couldn't do it. So then Brady. Because the way it works is you have a script that you go through and you throw your script, right? It was cool for me because my son, I was videoing it, and we have the script, right? So we see all the script of what he's going to throw, and he's reading off the route, like, hey, this is going to be a circus route, or this is going to be a basic route, or an in, which was good because then it'd tell you, and he'd say, hey, it's on the right hash. So it's good for him, a learning experience to sit there and listen and watch. But it's funny, when we got in the car, we were leaving, right? And I looked at him, I said, all that is like anything you're doing right now is training. You go and you run as fast as you can, right? That's why you train for it. And then you go, as a quarterback, you just go throw balls. That's all that would, for as much as you think it was, and there's people oohing and eyeing about these throws, these are things he's been doing. Since he's been a little boy.
Right.
Again, that's what, like, my point to Braden was, all this is running, jumping, and throwing the ball to receivers with no defenders. Probably the easiest way to do it.
Easiest way. Yep.
So, but I think the thing Brady wanted to show was arm strength. So he chucked a couple deep. He's hitting them about 55, 60 right range. Nothing. Like, I mean, he didn't like rear back and try and hit the ceiling or anything. But yeah, it was great. It was fun. It was fun to see. Got to see Andy Hill was there, who was a former Mizzou coach, who was one of those guys that didn't stick around when Drinkwitz came and ended up going and coaching with the Chiefs. Got a couple Super Bowl rings, and he retired, so he's done. But it was interesting to see. There was just Brock Olivo, the whole staff's there. But then you just see it's an interesting group. It's kind of, you see the same people when you go to those things, but it's always fun. I mean, I will say that the group of guys there from Coach Drinkwitz on down is very amenable, very open.
Very personal,
it is a very good feel when you go there. Like, I'm just trying to stay out of the weeds and just kind of stay off to the side,
Yeah.
Then you go down like, oh no, come on. It's like, come on the field. It's like, like that style, like you don't want to overstep your bounds.
It's not that way every place.
No, it's not. And I think it's very, it's cool. There's a good vibe. So yeah. And the kids that are there that you get to see do it, that have been the kids that we've trained, living out their dream. And, then you got a guy like Drake Heismeyer. He didn't do it. And I was talking to him, and he's living his best life. He's got a degree in engineering at Mizzou. He's finishing up his capstone. He's going to graduate. He's going to have an internship in St. Louis this summer.
Making his parents proud.
He looks great. He's still he's still getting paid to be at school. I mean, he golfs in the morning, class in the afternoon.
Which is amazing because Drake is somebody who I thought had a shot given his athletic ability.
You know what's interesting is I did say to him, and he said, he goes, I'm done. He's like, I only started those last 5 games of my senior year. He's like, things didn't go my way.
Yeah.
And he goes, I didn't want to be a distraction in these things. He's like, because I don't have any intention of playing beyond.
Right.
But I told him, I said, here's the thing. You're over 300 pounds and you're going to run under a sub 540. You'll be 4.9.
Do a 32, 34 vertical.
You could pique somebody's interest, right?
Yep.
And he's big enough. I mean, he's a good sized dude. And it's funny. He looked good, really good. And he's a guy who got the most out of his experience at Mizzou. He loved it.
No, yeah, he definitely used football as a means to an end.
Oh my God.
He wasn't that guy who was, I'm gonna go in here, I'm looking at getting the league or nothing. He was always just that, happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah. And he did what he was required of him, and he enjoyed being a
college
Missouri's
college student. Yep.
Right. And made the most of it. And I think those are the guys that come back into the community and really strengthen the ties back to the school. And yeah, he met a guy this summer and got a mechanical contract. He's gonna be a mechanical engineer. So yeah, he's doing really well.
And you know what's really tough is fans are tough on players like that. The guys that follow recruiting, they're diehards. Well, man, he didn't pan out. He mission accomplished. He's graduating with a high level degree. I mean, to play college football and get an engineering degree says all I need to know about that young man's integrity. But again, that goes back to the whole, the fans not knowing,
clueless.
Right. Just don't really, and I'm talking about diehard fans, just don't know. They think they know, and they like to get on the internet and spew a lot of stuff, but they don't know.
They don't know. They have no idea.
No idea what it is.
So the tough thing is when you have that conversation with people, because again, what are you going there for? One, you're going to get your education, right? You're a young man leaving high school.
Mm-hmm.
You get to extend your career playing a game, right? And if you're so lucky, you'll get to go to the NFL. But as we're talking about, if you're lucky enough to come out of high school and start making NIL money right away, or doing the revenue share that's coming next year, I mean, you're way ahead. You are way ahead in life. Okay.
Fans want every recruit though to be an NFLer. You know that.
The funny thing is,
it's just unrealistic.
And the funny thing is,
that's an amazing feel good story though.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could not have been more proud. I'm proud of Brady Cook, right?
Yeah.
I could not be any more proud of Drake Heismeyer. He's just sitting there talking to me. He mission accomplished.
Yeah. So Drake was coming to the elite combine as an 8th grader. And
he ran fast.
He ran fast. I'll never forget him. I don't know if it was 290. I think it was 300, 305, doing a 32-inch vertical jump. And he was getting.
That's how you play in the SEC.
Yes, he was getting up there, right? And you don't see that when you're a big like that. That's rare. You're a guy. You're a guy.
And I'll tell you what, he he played extremely well when he went in this year for Mizzou. They finished strong, and he was a major part of that.
Oh yeah.
But he and Brady had a good relationship.
Yes.
But you look at Brady's journey, right, from being the same kind of deal where he had offers but not a ton going in, and we already discussed kind of like how it almost didn't happen,
right?
And then it didn't go well when the coaching changed, because then you're not their guy, right? That's a tough thing.
Which really brings it back full circle to what we were talking about, these quarterbacks, right? And then the colleges now wanting them to go here and make your bones, and then we'll take a look at you. Think about Brady. You said it before. He had Mizzou, and he had
Lindenwood.
Yeah, and look at what he accomplished. It's so short-sighted, right, on these college coaches.
Very short-sighted.
Positions to not look at these guys, right? Because so just got to watch Brett Ottensmeyer over the weekend do his throwing his 7-on-7 with Boom. What more could you want? Clearly, we've talked about Rocco Marriott at Elite. He's doing his thing. I think
Bowling Green, right?
Yeah. Well, he got an offer from them, but he's doing his thing with Epic 7.
Yeah.
Right. I think they just won a championship. What more could you want than from a 6'4", 212-pound kid who runs a 4.5 40, 3.91 pro agility,
right?
10-foot pro. I mean, what more could you want? I mean, giant arm, can run.
He can run. And here's the thing. The only knock against him is going to be he didn't get a ton of reps as a sophomore. Well, they had to get Joseph Federer, who's playing
talking about Ottensmeyer.
Yeah, Ottensmeyer.
Yeah.
Didn't get to play much as a sophomore because they had a senior.
Yeah.
Not because the senior was bad. It was just that guy was there. And he's now at Kent State. He's playing receiver. He's a hell of an athlete in his own right. But the crazy thing is like, believe your eyes. Look at what you see. We were watching him at the 7-on-7. You said that to me, and it's like, yeah, but just believe what you see. Like, he fits the mold. He's not a sloth. He's big and strong. And here's the other thing. I would argue he's not overdeveloped. So if you look at it and you have any sense of, hey, my strength program is really good, and I will give kudos to Mizzou's strength program. Their head strength coach, those guys produced kids that ran really well. And that is a year-round thing with them. That's not just like a one-time, hey, you're done with your career, let's just work on your combine.
Right.
They work on it throughout the year. So kudos to them. But if you have a coach like that, are you afraid that guy's not going to develop? I mean, because but you can make the argument that a lot of guys are going to run the ship aground when they start to veer from the path of hey, we're just going to get a new guy every 2 years. Whereas you have a guy like Brady Cook who learned the culture and became part of the culture and then became the leader of the culture through that process. That doesn't happen in 1 and 2 years. That happens by being a freshman, getting your teeth kicked in, and then having some experiences that aren't great, and then persevering, and then getting to a point where you're now in control. And one of the coaches I was talking to, it was one of the coaches back in the 2-3 years ago, and he had told me, he's like, man, Brady needs to be the guy. If Brady's not the starter, there's going to be a mutiny. A lot of the coaches want him, and then players do too. He said, you can just feel it. And so he had gotten done, and I was talking to the coach. I said, well, coach, I think it all worked out.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, he smiled. I said, Matt, you're right, it did. And then he looks at me and goes, for not just Brady, it worked out for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what he meant? He meant it saved a ton of jobs. Yes. And it got those guys pay increases, and it got them more stability. It's going to buy them more years in the trade, if you will. So to me, you look back, that's why you invest in guys like a Brady Cook. And it goes back further. We start doing all the ratings of these kids. The number one thing that is missed, and you and I both know this, is how much do they love football and how resilient are they? Are they good people? All those things sometimes are not valued in that 5-star component.
Well, here's the thing, Matt. I would say the vast majority of these people who are writing blurbs and rating guys and stuff couldn't pick these guys out of a lineup, right? They're looking at little screens. In fact, I was talking with a couple of future college players. I was talking with Andy Hertline and Carter Burdell at Elite on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And they brought it up to me. They're like, you know what? Because they were talking about, just the whole situation in recruiting. And then it got into rankings and evaluations. And they brought it up to me. They said, you know what, JP? They're like, these guys never see us. They've never seen us.
Never.
They've never seen us play. They don't know anything about us. They've just looked at Huddle this whole time, and they're writing this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it is. That's why you got to. That's why you got to. That's why you got to take it. You know, because they were talking about how they were ranked. They were ranked, and now here they are going to be playing college ball. They're both going to be playing, you know, D1 ball.
It's so silly. Hey, so the last thing I'll tell you about the pro day, because I want to like bring this up because a lot of people may think this is interesting. So you have the in-state guys, okay, that come in. So the Missouri States, the Mobaps, the Lindenwoods, which was funny because Coach Jed Stugart was there, and I saw he and Jim.
He's come back on the show.
He and Jim Cook were talking, and they were, you know, just after the day was over because the parents were down on the field by that point. You know, Brady's wrapping up, the Mizzou's wrapping up, and now the other guys are coming in. And they were talking, and I walked over and said, you know, it all started with this guy. And then Jed's like, oh, he's like, that's what we were just laughing about. He goes, I knew we weren't going to get him. He's like, but we wanted to be the first to offer him, which was cool, right? He did it at the mega camp. I remember watching it happen. But so what happens is these guys come in from all these different schools. And so they've gotten their height and weight done and all that stuff and all their measurements. And then they come into the indoor as everybody's leaving from the other group. And the scouts, they have 2 lines. Depends on how many kids there are. Usually it's 1 or 2 lines. They have a starter. They have a guy doing the 10. And then they have a consortium of coaches at the end doing the 40s. So everybody runs 2 40s. And then they get together. And then they go through. And the starter tells them what, you know, the 10-yard people tell them what they got. And then the people they average out what the scores, what the times were from everybody down at the end. And they kind of go through, they do a call sheet, kind of figure out who's who. Then they bring everybody together. And then if you did not run fast enough, your name is not called, and it's time to leave. You need to leave. Yeah. And it is very hard to watch these young men, many of which are just at the peak of their physical prowess, right? They're just physically superior. They look good. And some of them appeared to run well, but not well enough. And you watch, that was their last experience as football players. I mean, I watched every kid that was from Missouri State walk out of there together. It was like 6 or 7 of them. Every one of them got released, right? And there were some good looking athletes. So, you know, the tough thing is, it can come to a screeching halt, right? And you know, lesson learned, be at a bigger school that's hosting their own pro day, you at least get to do the entire thing, right, and they get to see the whole full body of work. Yeah. But if you're a smaller school guy, if you don't run the 40, it's over.
I would say starting with your high school player and your parent all the way through, you better, you know, develop a hard shell. You better learn how to take the criticism and learn how to take the failures and the, you know, dismissals, and people not thinking that you're quite good enough, because man, it is tough. And I know you and I deal with it a lot, and we deal with it with parents who they just want to know. And especially now, 10 years down the road, it's really gotten weird and wild and crazy, and it's really tough. And as far as back to these kids who are high schoolers who, you know, they want them to go to the smaller schools, and then what really needs to happen, and I hate to say it, but you need to have some of these high dollar backups that schools are paying $1 million to come play fail, right? Yeah. For that to flip back and them to realize, hey, let's take this talent from high school and develop it and mold it.
I think that's in the process of happening too, because they miss on so many guys because it's such an inexact science, if you will. There's too much variability, too much emotion, too much political component in the recruiting process. And, you know, truthfully, in the college coach's defense, there's a lot of noise that they have to wade through, right? Because you know, after all, they are coaches, right? And so their primary role is a coach. There are recruiting departments and those guys and like player personnel, if you will. But, you know, a lot of times the coaches are involved still heavily in recruiting due to the NCAA rules, you know, the hard hand-to-hand recruiting, hand-to-hand combat. But I think the tough thing with that is that a lot of times you're not going to be great at everything, right? You could be a great position coach or a great X's and O's guy, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a great salesman. Doesn't necessarily mean you're a great evaluator, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of those guys would probably tell you that they're not, and that you know that they. And how do they know? Because they get those stinkers that are in their group, and they're like, "Oh man, what are we going to do with this one?"
Right.
You know, and back in the day, you had to eat it and keep the guy there.
Right.
Now, you only have to eat it for so long, and then you can get rid of them.
Yeah.
Essentially, so
or they'll see a guy that they passed on go be very successful,
mhm.
and they love to talk about the ones that got away.
Oh, yeah, it happens. I mean,
You
but
know?
yeah, and but the issue becomes like, you know, sometimes they're forced to take guys they don't want to take either, though, right? I
Oh,
mean, it's
100%.
just part of the deal. So yeah, I'm really not. It's such a weird process. So when the parents are upset about it and they're trying to figure out all these different things and trying to kind of like wrangle control of the process, like they might in a business scenario or in real life in a relationship, you can't in these. You just can't.
There's no magic wand.
There's no magic wand. And I will tell you, like, I know people that are like, it's so like the other thing is like there's a fallacy of like, well, that kid's getting offers because his dad played or his dad's a coach or this or that. That only happens so much because at the end of the day, I mean, you and I have real world scenarios where there's people that are friends, like lifelong friends with people that are coaches. Their sons are, you know, of recruiting age, and things happen and they end up just stop talking to each other.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that can happen because it's not easy. I mean, I will tell you a real life scenario. Last year, I was asked by a head coach to help of a high level school. Hey, can you float my son's name to some of your schools that you talk to?
Yep.
Right. And this kid was committed to a school, but he was looking at leaving. And, just because they just knew it wasn't going to be a good fit there. And I did. And, you know, and the problem is you feel horrible because like I'm floating the name. I'm not getting the feedback that I think I'm going to get. Right. But again, some of it's just, but he didn't as a head coach, didn't want to go push and force his weight around either, which, because again, he respects the process, but it is such a strange deal when you watch that happen and you're like, okay, hey, this guy's got a good name. Someone's going to want his kid. His kid's a baller, you know. But then the problem is that and some of it is they were just full. People were just full. So
yeah. Oh, it's a difficult process. And again, I don't think a lot of people know everything that goes into it and how the ins and outs of it and how it works. And that's why, you know, and I tell parents this and they don't like it. I'm like, you can't take it personal. It's just business.
Yep.
And they're living and dying every day because, you know, this school hasn't offered or they've talked to this school and, you know, then they just ghost them or whatever. I mean,
and then they offer, then you have to sit and watch them offer 3 kids.
Yeah. I mean, it's just business. And, you know, like you said, they're not always right. And in fact, more times than not, they're not, you know. I mean, you know, the cream of the crop, you know, my deceased grandma could pick those kids and be like, that's an elite player.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
From beyond the grave.
Oh, this Jackson Cantwell, 6'7". Come on, really?
You know what I mean? I mean, he's down there just like doing what 500 pounds for reps or something like that. You know, at 6'8", he's got long arms.
Long arms.
You know, that's no easy feat.
No,
you know, it's much easier for somebody with the stockier body, the shorter arms to have have higher bench.
The big barrel chest. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, Jackson's really built like a basketball player, to be perfully honest.
That's why he's going to be an elite level tackle.
Exactly. But before we get out of here, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this past weekend because you got something to be a little proud of.
Yeah,
this past weekend down at Melville. I'll set it up.
Okay, you got it. You got it.
I'll set you up. Don't just jump in there and be like, "Look at me."
Hey.
No. So down at Melville this past weekend, the ES Academy. Flight Academy held their 4th annual Show Me Shootout 7-on-7 tournament, and there were some teams from. It was really good mix of guys from across the state, Kansas City, some guys from out of the area, and along with Boom. And I mean, I don't know how many teams. How many teams did you have?
We had 7 teams there
from various age
little
groups.
Guys, 14U up through 18U.
Yeah, I mean, there were some guys as young as 10 years playing.
That always cracks me up watching that.
Little kids. It's funny because one of your line coaches told me that they showed up there and looked at it like at the very beginning and like, this is boring. I'm like, well, you were watching little kids.
Yeah.
You know,
right. He was out watching the 8-year-olds go, or whatever they are, 10U, and
10
which
you.
some of those guys look even younger.
Right. But I mean, you have just so much talent was there. I mean, the place was just littered with D1 football players.
Yeah.
Including the team that won the 18U championship was really loaded with D1 players.
Yeah.
And they just happened to be.
It was our Midwest Boom purple team, which we have, like, there's a purple, black, yellow. There's, again, just colors of our jerseys. But, well, actually, not even colors of our jerseys, the logo, because our jerseys are blue this year. They go crazy with the colors of these things. Joe, I sent you a picture if you can pull it up. But yeah, Coach Dom Nelson and Artie Johnson, their squad took it home. It's a really good deal. And the tough thing is like they beat first of the playoffs. They beat our black team, which is like another group of kids that if they're on the other side of the bracket, they probably end up having a good shot of beating, playing each other in the championship. But they, it sucks in these things, the number of times, and anybody that's done 7-on-7 with numerous teams, you know what I mean? Like those guys, you're looking and you're like, they end up playing each other like first round, and it's like, it just sucks. And because it's like, at least split them up, right? But it's just weird because, like, one team loses loses by a point, and then that point differential ends up screwing you over in the rankings for the seedings, and then you seed against each other. It's like, oh my God.
Sometimes you'll see two from the same program play each other in the championship, which is really interesting, because that's when all the friendships go out the window.
So our Chicago Boom guys, they won this weekend in a tournament up in Chicago too. So there was I think they played each other in the championship type of deal, which they do quite often in some of those tournaments. But good group of kids. A kid that's coming, a quarterback that's on the rise, Reese Shanklin from East St. Louis.
Looks great.
He's a guy. I mean, he's a guy. Again, he's gone through some things. I mean, I think he struggled he had to play in the state championship as a freshman, had a inopportune turnover, which, again, in a big game, it's cold as can be.
Yeah.
You get in there and it's troublesome, right? But
that's what you learn from.
But guess what? That kid is resilient. The other night, I'll tell you a quick story about him. So it's Wednesday night. A part of our group training, we'll do filming of our. So I had a group of kids. I filmed a group. Marcus filmed a group, and then the other two groups were doing drill work. My group was doing like in my office. We were going through the film, and then we came out, and I was going over a bunch of things. But Reese was in a different group. Well, it was everybody was done.
Mm-hmm.
But he heard me talking about like this, what we were doing. I was working on some footwork with them. And he just says, "Hey, I want to jump in," because he heard what I was talking about and it intrigued him. So he jumped in, right? And he's just a coachable kid. It wasn't like he was, but his antenna was up. He saw that there was another opportunity. Like they were done, they were leaving. There was an opportunity. He could tell I was getting ready to get rolling, and it was another 15 minutes of extra work.
Right.
So he just jumps in. And, again, that's the kind of kids that, more than anything about the extra work, it's being attentive to what's going on and aware of your surroundings. And I think that, to me, not only can he throw, but he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks they've had coming out of there in a long time.
Oh, without question.
Stud.
And we talked about him when he was a freshman, that he's one of the best ones in the region. You could just see it.
Good kid.
He's developed, he's matured, he's developed. He wants to be great. And not only is he a really, really good quarterback, but he's a heck of an athlete. He was at the elite combine. He just broad jumped like 9.7, 9.8. Yep. The 33-inch vertical, that kind of athleticism.
And he's got a big arm.
Big arm.
Yep. So he'll be that in that class of 7. He'll be. I think he should be the guy kind of rising out of that group as one of the premier guys, especially in our region.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is that East St. Louis, man, they are so loaded.
Oh my God!
They have a freshman from this year who plays actually
Stacked.
for the Chicago Boom.
Yeah,
right. Think of that. You have two quarterbacks like that, and he's just been on fire all spring.
Oh yeah, I mean, they just reload.
Plus, they have two incoming freshmen. I think both of them were at the 7-on-7, the Show Me Shootout. I know at least one of them was, but I think both of them were phenomenal young guys.
Yep.
And
It's wild, man.
it's
Going to
it's
be
crazy how good it is. But no, just that group of guys. You had Reese Shanklin,
Go
Armand.
Miller
Yeah, Go Miller was just on fire.
on fire.
Defensively, Jabari Lofton,
Mhm.
who's a recent transfer in, Raheem Floyd.
Yeah.
I mean, you had
Royce.
Royce Searcy
Yep.
made some great plays. Really coming on. Another guy who
I
really
mean, Nick
showed out of
McClellan.
Nick McClellan, right?
Just like
So
it's a who's who. And here's the thing: athletic, good kids,
yes,
had a lot of fun. Some of those tournaments can get out of hand. I thought they did a good job because, especially when you get a lot of kids from the same area,
yeah,
it could get rough, right? It did not get rough. They did a great job. Greg Wayne and the guys did a great job of just keeping it. The referees and those things are always a crapshoot. I thought the referees did a good job, and
yeah, it was better than
better. I can tell you this,
Yeah.
better than one in Kansas City with the refereeing
yeah, Greg Wayne just a great job, and I mean he's hustling, man. He's getting he's getting everybody waters and doing all kinds of stuff out there.
He did a really good job.
He's hustling, did a great job with that. But think of the quarterbacks out there. You had Reese Shanklin, you had Brett Ottensmeyer, you had Aiden Wilhelm was with Empire, who's a D1 guy. Brett's a D1 guy. Reese is gonna be
Sam Dean.
Yeah, you had Jonathan Moore.
Yeah, Jonathan Moore's there. Yeah,
who's gonna be at some high school this year.
Yeah,
but just really, has an offer from Oklahoma, and Oklahoma likes him as a safety. He was telling me.
That's pretty nice.
That's pretty nice. That's a pretty nice deal.
And then young quarterback. I mean, there was
young quarterbacks.
It's just it's fun.
Kid named Braden Bierman is a guy to watch.
He's gonna be all right.
There were some really good, like 9th grade gonna be freshman quarterbacks. I mean,
we got one Gus Logan who's who's
super,
but he's also, when he plays safety, he is such a dynamic safety. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, this guy's. By the way, you're off.
I know. I'm trying to.
Everybody knows.
You hear my voice. Yeah.
Everybody knows that you've left the studio. You're just on your phone.
I'm on the phone.
Driving
in my car.
home.
I'm driving home.
Yeah.
My limo was out here.
I'm stuck here. Oh no, your private jet just went out.
This is true.
Out the back door.
Yeah, it's so quiet. You can't.
That is interesting. So we do film at a discreet location, but we're near a lot of high-end jets and stuff like that. It's crazy. You never hear them. Never hear a thing. Yeah. So it's just kind of cool.
That's crazy. But no, so yeah, congratulations to you guys on that. Dom and the guys, Artie, just phenomenal. And those guys coach.
Oh, coaching their butts off.
They're coaching their butts off out there. I mean,
Artie's energy.
He gets after it, man.
He and I have been buddies since we were in middle school. We've known each other since middle school. We played together, and then he transferred out our sophomore year. But really, just energy is infectious,
right?
And the kids love it, and just having fun. It was fun, and thank God the weather held off, and we got a little rain on Sunday.
Yeah,
but Saturday was beautiful.
Good weather. So what's coming up for you next? What's up with your guys? Is Boom on the road?
Yeah, we got. Well, this weekend there'll be some guys going out of town down in Nashville to do the what is the Under Armour?
It's one of the All-American.
Yeah, All-American camps. And then
free shoes.
And then then you got the following weekend we go to Chicago, and then we're off a week, and then we have Easter weekend. We have a one-day tournament in Indianapolis, so it's gonna be fun. And then,
other than that, training,
yeah, Wednesdays, Sundays, and then Monday through Friday we got speed and agility, and we got all of our private training going on. I mean, if this is the time between now,
you got to do it. You got
and the end of May, you got to play catch up if you haven't been doing it.
I'm telling you right now, between now and the end of April, because that's really when things start cooking. KC Varsity Combines are coming up here in St. Louis, May the 3rd, Parkway West, your alma mater, gonna be there. It's gonna be a happening place. So, but you don't want to show up, just laying on the couch, and then you just
guys will do that.
Guys will do that,
and then we turn around. Oh, it's May 12th. The follow, 2 Mondays after Monday, a week from that Monday after, we'll be at DeSmet for the St. Louis Metro Football Coaches Association, which again is another warm up, and it's going to be a good experience, I think. So you get those guys. I mean, and you just kind of plot along, and you just it's another time to be understanding of where you're at and what you're doing and kind of where you're at and you need to do to push yourself and put yourself in a position to be at least be viewed.
Right. Exactly. So absolutely go to kcvarsitycombine.com. If you want to sign up, you want more info on the KC Varsity Combine, it's going to be here in St. Louis, are the ones that are going to be in Kansas City on April 26th. There I am.
You're back.
You missed me. And on the 10th as well. And for the coaches showcase,
just go to elitefootball.net and then scroll down on the main page.
Yep. And you can catch us on our socials, JP Rock MO on X. There we go. JP Rock Scouts U on Instagram. And you can find you at
Elite Football on X, Elite Football Academy on Instagram, and then elitefootball.net on the web.
Football360show.com for all things Football 360 Show. And you can also catch the podcast on Spotify and Apple as well.
We're getting more and more listeners, which is good.
More and more listeners. People are getting mad at us if we don't do it. So that's a good sign. That's always a good sign. But we've enjoyed ourselves. Hopefully, you're going to have some nice weather for the foreseeable future. I guess what is this like going out like a lamb? I mean, going out like a lion. We've been pretty much a lion all month.
Oh, it's brutal.
So it's brutal.
I'm ready for the wind to die down.
Me too. It's not conducive for 7-on-7.
No, it's not.
That's for sure. Enjoyed ourselves as always. Reach out. You got a question for us, you know how, and we will talk to you next week. See ya. Stay safe.
We lost you,